So hey everybody, I'm Dr. Craig Engstrom, but you can just call me Craig, and welcome back to a second Tuesday talent development tune-up on Zwift. And as you can see, I'm not on the trainer today because after the first video, I just kept riding. I did a little bit of an activity, and since I already had that video, I thought that would be a perfect second video where I talk about the gamification of teaching while talking about the elements of Zwift that make it so engaging. I think there's a lot of parallels, and we as educators or talent development professionals can take a lot from good game design and apply it to our training and development or teaching practices. So I thought I would just show that video and talk a little bit today. I'm sitting down, so I'm not breathing that hard. Also, the purpose of these videos, as I noted, is I'm trying to do these where I can share some words of wisdom, but not require so much time and production, because that's one of the hardest things about getting videos out. So I'll be back on the trainer, and sometimes I may have to do pre-rides and then talk about them and so forth. So this is just, again, it's not always going to be like literally on the trainer. And as I said, I may even do some live streams, and you all tell me if you think this is going and how I can continue to improve. But let's go ahead and get into the essence of this video. The first one was on trying something new, and that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to get better at this. And the second video now is going to be on gamification. So Zwift is a virtual cycling platform, as you can see, and it shows us something important about gamification and teaching. Zwift takes something very difficult like indoor training and makes it engaging. If you've ever spent time on a Stairmaster, a treadmill, or on a trainer for a bike or any other type of technology like that, you know how boring and just painful that can be. A 20-minute ride on a trainer without any stimulation feels like an hour. It's awful. I don't want to do it. I've tried everything like reading books, but that's hard because you're moving and you're getting sweaty. I've tried to watch movies, but it's just not the same. But Zwift, because it simulates the real experience, is a game changer. And then you simulate that real experience and you add gamification on top of it, and it's kind of addictive, to be honest with you. And that's what we want to do for students, is to provide real world sort of ways in which they can learn about the world, even if it's inside of a classroom, and motivate them through psychology and behaviorism and those types of things. So that's what we're going to talk about. I do believe that the same design principles that are in Zwift can make our courses more motivating and more meaningful to students. So what is gamification? Gamification is simply the use of game elements in non-game contexts. So you can even apply the principles of board games to teaching, just as we're talking about in a virtual game. That definition, by the way, comes from some scholars that I have placed on the screen, and I have a list of recommended readings that you can go to, so please check them out. In education, I think that this means adding structure such as goals, levels, challenges, and feedback loops to support learning. Research, in essence, from this field is really grounded in the idea of self-determination theory, and it tells us that these elements work because they tap into certain needs. And I believe those needs, if I can recall them pretty off the top of my head, are autonomy, competence, and relatedness. So this is based on research. And again, if you take that research and then apply it to your pedagogy, you're going to have profound results. So for me, the scholarship that's really important to pay attention to, I'm an instructional communication person, but I think you really want to draw quite a bit from psychology here for this, because we're really talking often about internal motivations, but clearly the way you communicate ideas and the way in which you motivate students through communication is going to be important. So maybe the better analogy, especially if you're going to use game design, would be like either game masters, referees, coaches. Those kinds of analogies would be better suited for how you should think about yourself in relation to students and the learning experience. They become players, for example. They become athletes. Again, I'm not saying that's how we should make them, but the idea is you're really wanting to work with that analogy of games. And research on this shows that gamification can certainly increase motivation and persistence. Students tend to engage longer, research shows, when the system or the instructor provides clear goals and immediate feedback. But researchers also caution us gamification is effective really only when it's meaningful. So if you devise activities that students can't really connect that kind of the purpose of what they're doing it, then it becomes just like edutainment, and you don't want that. One of my favorite activities that I do is to tie sort of this process. So I already have this like scaffolded assignment where students learn sort of public speaking and to do a presentation sort of step by step. But along the way, they're evaluating each other and I'm evaluating them, and they kind of get scored into a kind of bracket so I can kind of gamify the experience. I do it in such a way that as long as they're meeting competence goals, they're not being graded by how well they do against each other, but it kind of adds this element of competition into it, and competition can be an element of game design. Now, of course, there are games that are non-competitive, there are games that are cooperative, and that's fine as well. But sometimes it's important really to provide the students that connection of why you're doing what you're doing. If you simply add, for example, points or badges, people talk about this, or even like at a system level, people talk about stackable credentials. Those are useless unless people really understand, why am I earning these things? So if they don't have any purpose, it doesn't really increase the learning, and that's what the research shows. The design must support the deeper instructional goals. So what are game design elements that actually matter? I would say first, clear goals and visible progress markers. So their leaderboards can be very helpful, knowing what someone's personal record is on something and then having them challenge themselves to get above that. That's why I actually think grades can be somewhat valuable. There's been a lot of debate recently because of this Harvard talk about grades and grade inflation and so forth. Again, one may have a good argument about grade inflation because, again, good game design, not everybody always is going to be winners. But again, in a collaborative game, maybe they can be. So I'm not here to get into the weeds on that, but it does matter that we have clear goals that we're going for. In Zwift, you're going against a time clock. You're going against your previous record. You're going against distance, whatever it might be. And then they give you sort of incentives, and you can set some of your own goals, and that's the autonomy, and that's very important. Anyway, so clear goals. Second, you want to have immediate and frequent feedback for students, or in this case, in the game, it's immediate. But what can you do to build in using the learning management system, especially even if you're teaching face-to-face, having immediate and frequent feedback is important. And if you can even automate some of that so they can get that immediate feedback is useful. Third, you really want to be able to give them safe failure. You want learners to be able to retry without penalty. An example that I have from my courses is I have a pretty hard exam in my business communication course on sort of like grammar, punctuation, and so forth. And if they score poorly on that, it automatically releases a document for remediation that they can do. And it gives them a little bit more flexibility and time and so forth, and then go through and remediate that. And as long as they get so many correct out of whatever number I have, I can't remember all the details. It's been a while since I've taught that course. They will be able to pass in because they hit competence, and a competence equals a score of at least B to A. So I give them that safe failure. Another way to give safe failure is to, for example, if you're going to have a high stakes activity, give some low stakes activity to make sure that they are comfortable with the experience. This is really important if using technology to make sure the technology works. But again, I can join a Zwift competition and I can fail and I can just restart the game, right? So I did repack rush in my first video, and if I didn't get the good time just on that ride, it immediately started again and I could try again. So safe failure is good. Anyway, so you get the point. Fifth is identity. Students need to be able to adopt roles like analyst, designer, or problem solvers. I gave some analogies earlier, like player is another one, coach, referee, and so forth. And finally, I would say that it's important that they have a mix of competition and cooperation that keeps people really engaged in the activity. So merely putting students in groups and then telling them to go do stuff, I like to actually say I'm putting you in a team, and then explaining to them and giving them time to develop the team, right? You don't expect a team at work to just immediately get together and do things. You do team builders and so forth. So you've got to help facilitate for the students those experiences and slowly bring them into it. You don't start in Zelda on level 10 or whatever it might be, world, and you start lower and you build up your competencies as you move along, and you want to offer that for students. And as you can see by watching what you're seeing on screen, Zwift does all of this exceptionally well. I mean, to be honest with you, Zwift is more than a cycling game. It's a fully realized learning environment, at least for me. Like, it's giving me techniques, tools, strategy for the road when I'm riding in competition or with other groups. And just to be clear, everybody, I'm not a really great cyclist. It's very interesting. I end up always sort of in between the fast group and the slow group. So I frequently end up kind of riding by myself. That's okay for me, but I also, you need to be careful of that. So if that's where students want to be and they're comfortable in that space, let them be there. You don't always need to be in the front. I think instructors want every student earning A's, but some are comfortable with C's. But on the other hand, you don't want that person to be kind of trapped and they're not having a good time either. And there have been times where I'm not having a good time because of that scenario. But anyway, it's a learning environment, Zwift is. I mean, it gives riders real-time feedback on speed, cadence, power, their heart rate if they have a heart rate monitor, power if they have a power meter. So you have the right tools and technology, you can really get a lot of feedback. It builds persistence in a world that really rewards this. Gives you a lot of opportunity to explore. It supports self-paced progression through levels and achievements, and encourages social learning by connecting riders worldwide. In short, Zwift really does model itself exactly on how a well-designed learning ecosystem should be built and can motivate people and sustain their effort. And we want to take those kinds of principles and apply them to our teaching. So that was just a real kind of overview and segue into like really what Zwift does. So we can now shift into talking about the pedagogy in a little bit more detail. So now that I've talked a little bit about pedagogy and gamification and Zwift a little bit, let's look at or talk a little bit about how the Zwift features themselves can map directly onto gamified learning design. So this is where now it all kind of comes together. And I'm only going to give 10 in this slide because I want to be shorter than 20 minutes. I said I would do 10 to 20-minute videos for these Talent Development Tuesdays. So here they are. And I'll probably have more in the future. So that's why you want to subscribe. Number one, the PR ghost or personal record ghost. I love this thing. So when you're in the Zwift world, I don't think I had it in this world, so I'm not going to be able to show it, but it is essentially a ghost of yourself that's based on your previous lap or your best time overall. And it kind of takes off when you get to a sprint or a climb or a route, and it'll be kind of this ghost looking version of yourself, and you can chase it, or you could just see it behind you, or it's ahead of you, so you're chasing it. So that's the PR ghost. And this allows you to keep pushing yourself towards mastery. And for students, they need something where they can observe themselves getting better or where they were, and then trying for that. That's the essence of that kind of autonomy. How they get there, we don't necessarily have to dictate it. What I like to do in my classes is to let students see through recordings and do some self-analysis to see their progression and growth. I like to point out how they have grown from speech 1 to speech 2, for example. They're not always going to make those connections, so you need to provide that ghost bridge, so to speak. Second, you want to give achievements and badges. These are small markers of progress. In Zwift, you have different levels. You have different kit that you get. You get these like socks. You get hats. You get helmets. You can purchase through points these wheels. You can see on the screen there's like this sweat looking kind of drip drop thing. And as you work harder and put more effort in, you get more of those. And so that you can always level up. Power-ups, these are temporary boosts that give you some strategy in the game. So obviously this is not going to be in real life, but if you need a little bit of drafting and you've earned that power-up, you can deploy it and you can use that to help you go a little faster. If you're on a climb, you can do the featherweight. That drops because you do put your actual weight into Zwift, and that's how the game is adapting. So it'll probably drop, I don't know what the percentage is, but your weight, so you can do a little less effort as you climb, but go just as far and fast. 4 daily and weekly missions. Actually, I think that's 5, to be honest with you, daily and weekly missions. We want to be clear goals that reset and motivate repeated engagement. So Zwift will let you set your own goals. So I think that's important for students. They will also set some goals for you and then reward you when you hit those goals. Number 6, you want to be able to choose, and they give you the choice to follow different routes with different difficulty ratings. So some days I don't feel like doing something very difficult. So basically for students, you want to give them, in my opinion, the mapping here would be to give them different assignments. I think for different assignments, you could give them, for example, a couple different ways they can complete the activity. And I've even seen or heard some instructors that will give students, here's what you need to do for an A, here's what you need to do for a B, and let them kind of choose what they want to do in terms of the effort. I think that's just a matter of choice, and that's really important in game design. So do that in our pedagogy is important. Virtual gear unlock, there's cosmetic and performance incentives. You can ride with friends. I think working in groups, having students be able to develop some of the social relationships that they need to develop in the class, study groups, that kind of thing. And then live leaderboards clearly are very helpful, knowing where everyone else is. So that's why I like in the learning management system to be able to provide a board of where people are. I talked about that activity where I do a gamified version of a bracket as they're completing speeches. There's events, races, and tours. So again, just different types of choice ultimately. And I think all of these are very compelling because they speak really to the basic psychological needs for progress, social connection, and meaningful challenge. So I love Zwift for that. Let's now round out this video with really comparing the two side by side. So how does this translate to the classroom? Let's really now bring it all together. Zwift's PR Ghost becomes a learner comparing their work to their own past performance, and this would be like Mastery Pass. So giving students Mastery Pass can be a very valuable tool. Badges and levels become module achievements and milestones. Power-ups map to optional support or resources. Students can choose when they need to get help. Writing with friends becomes structured peer learning, discussion groups, buddy systems, collaborative projects. Leaderboards become progress dashboards or self-assessments, and events or tours become deadlines, case competitions, or themed learning challenges. The point is, these design choices show us how to create, I think, structure, motivation, and flow in our teaching and in our learning. And to close it all out, you can continue watching the video through my entire performance. Zwift shows us that when people receive immediate feedback, see visible progress, and feel supported by a community, they stay very engaged, even I think when a task is very hard. So ultimately, gamification isn't about adding points or bells and whistles to our teaching. It's not about edutainment. It's about designing meaningful, motivating experiences that help learners push themselves. And that's what I do in cycling. And I will do future videos on some analogies that I have about cycling, including why I believe being mediocre is actually okay. If Zwift can take indoor cycling and make it more exciting, I think that we can make our courses just as engaging through thoughtful design and so on. And as you've seen, as you've watched the video, all of the things that I was talking about were sort of being displayed on screen. And you could see, I think, me pushing myself because not only did I want to challenge myself, but the things in the game itself were pushing me. And even the projection of how this might look on a application like Strava, which is like the ultimate leaderboard because it's a social media site that tracks all of your exercises and all the other exercises in your group of friends there. You're kind of already thinking ahead and projecting into that future. And that's where we want students to reside. We want them imagining what's going to be the sort of achievement they get. And it can't always be an external reward. It has to be a very internal thing as well. I hope you found this video helpful. Thank you for joining me on this Zwift Tuesday, a talent development tune-up. And I do hope that you will join me in future ones. Be sure to share, like, and subscribe. Thanks. As I'm coming in here, I notice I have two behind me that are catching up. They're pulling together. I've got about a mile and 1.8 miles. Now I'm thinking about my strategy. Let them catch up, stay on, tire them out. I have to see how hard they're coming in. I still have a boost up there in the corner, that Y. All right, let's see. 1.5 miles. I might be able to place in the top 10. All right, time to focus. Pushing harder. Downhill, shift up. Let's watch me climb this hill. Be a little crazy. Actually, I don't know if there is a hill here. I'll come back if there is. Oh, I can't get in top 10. I'm not gonna catch those people ahead of me. So now it's just if I can keep it number 11. I doubt it. I'm starting to push hard at the beginning. Here comes the hill. My Wahoo climb's gonna go up. Watch this. Just don't have it. Let them go. Alright, so I think that's it. Beautiful song. It's REM right now. Making Famous is good. Punching in a Dream. It's a good song for cycling. I'm just going to go to 12 here. Go ahead and hit that Y for the featherweight. As you can see, this is a completely gamified experience. You can sort of try to beat your time, just giving you all the metrics. If you're behind somebody, you're going slower. If you're climbing a hill, it's harder. Everything's immersive, adaptive. Well, not immersive 100%. Maybe with some VR it would be, but Anyway, definitely keeps you motivated. And I think I'll edit this in at the beginning of the video that I produced where I was writing and talking. I'm gonna see how this format works. Anyway, if you're watching, do consider following me and be sure to have a wonderful, happy, productive day of teaching and learning. Bye-bye. Well, never mind. I gotta go to 12 minutes. Bad timing.